So, welcome back to Nana's Baba. So, first episode. This is where I'm going to kind of go over, some people call it their journey, their voyage, all that other stuff. But this is our thing and how we got to our thing. Started when we first got married. And I don't mean to be cavalier and speak for my wife, but the odds of her probably getting on here and making a video are slim to none. Right after we got married, we decided to adopt. And our take on it was we didn't need to go international. There was plenty enough kids with issues or needed help here in America and plenty enough in our state. So we went through the human services route and went through that process. Through that process, we found out we didn't much care for it. A lot of human services organizations out there in every state are screaming, we need parents, we need parents, we need foster parents. But when you step up, the ordeal of hell you have to go through and the amount of garbage you have to go through is pretty much for the lowest common denominator and just didn't work for us. It might work for you. So we went through our first adoption about, the kids were 7 and 4, and now they're 15, so 8 years ago. And everything was fine. Our children are 2 special needs children. And so that didn't really scare us. Each person needs to be forewarned, thought put into this before they just go charging down the path. My wife and I, went to a lot of different seminars, a lot of different trainings, and got schooled on a lot of different things. In the offset that we had children that had special needs that were maybe undetected or not known about. So after we got done with that, we were kind of knowing that we weren't really done, but we just didn't know when the time was right. And we started looking at fostering again and again, dealing with DHS, Department of Human Services, Child Services, whatever you want to call it. And the whole idea is icky. And we were really anti foreign adoption to start with, and we pretty much didn't give any thought because we were pretty much against foreign adoption. Not that we're some sort of sheet-wearing weirdos. Just it didn't work for us. Like we said, think local, act local. And then we started looking into it. And we found out, though it's much more expensive, it still has all the same steps that state-level adoption has. The processes are the same, with the exception of the validation of documents, which we'll go into in other episodes. But you can literally pick out step for step what and where you are in the process. So we sat down, opened up a link, and much like our children that we got the first time, as soon as we saw the picture, I looked at my wife and said, let's get our daughter home. And after that point in time, we became pregnant again. As we like to say, in our family, we don't have 9-month pregnancies. We're much more like elephants. We do 24 months. And that's the other thing. I think anyone going into this really needs to come to grips with adoption, really needs to come to grips with what they're willing to accept and what their partner's willing to accept and what they're both willing to settle on or accept. That right there has probably been the biggest problem where we've worked with adoptive couples before and in love with the idea, not so much the reality. So we went down that path and, like I said, opened up the first bulletin and wow, saw Nana, which is Mandarin for Anna. And we started through the process. And in state-level adoption, it's kind of like throw another 100 at it, or local adoption. In foreign adoption, it's throw another 1,000 at it. It is what it is. You don't get into it for the tax credit of the break. It's a matter of the heart. So that's kind of been our journey through this and how we kind of got there. I mean, I'm taking huge, broad, sweeping strokes, but it's probably not that different from a lot of you guys. Variations on a theme. Always wanted to thought about, now acting on. But like I said, we are adoptive parents only. That's all we have is adopted children. So we had got at least almost coming up on a decade of big A or adoption underneath our belt with special needs children. And then that's when we said, these kids and us and the family are financially stable. We're in a good place. Let's go ahead and start getting pregnant for the 2-year process. It depends on what orphanage. It depends on what agency you use, how well they're organized, how fast you can go. I'll be sort of giving a unboxing, shall we say, of how our agency was. Also, I'll be going into the equipment selection, how I started prepping for this trip. But that's just a basic overview of how we got started in our journey, so you can get at least a frame of reference for who we are and how we decided. So next episode will be something about maybe the decision on how we decided I would go over.